This tutorial looks at creating a series of commands which will allow you to have your equations written down here without working out. So you will have to do working out for the first 20, however you can check your answers using this. So yours should be looking exactly the same as mine, and you need to follow the same process. So we're going to start by adding in a few lines. We need a few columns in here, more than what we've currently got. So we've got AB, AC and AD. We do need to add in 3 more columns. So we're going to do this by going up and selecting the column AC and then right clicking and insert. So we're going to do that 3 times. So I've now got in AG, AD and AE. They're small columns, so I'm going to create or make them bigger. So if I select all 3 columns by dragging, so click AC and drag across, you can let go of that click, and then we're going to move your mouse so that it's like a cross. It's directly in between AC and AD. Click again and drag it out. At this point it doesn't matter how much you drag it out, you just want to be able to see these lines or these columns on your computer screen. So we're going to change their sizing a little bit more later, but right now that's enough. Now if we select the cell AC5, so where I've got it there, so next to your Y equals your first cell, we're going to click or type, equals, and then we're going to select our gradient. So equals in this case 0, which is in O5. So you should select the cell O5 and press enter. In the cell next to that, we're just going to write X. Now in Excel it doesn't really like having just one individual letter by itself. So what you're going to do is you're going to press space and then press X. Alright, cell next to that, again, space, and then press plus. Now in this cell we do our most complex little calculation. It is again a calculation, so you have to start by pressing equals, and we're going to start by timesing together negative of our gradient times x1. So what I'm going to do is I type in negative, then select my gradient cell, then I'm going to times that, which is the little asterisk above 8, so times that by my x1, and I'm going to call x1 my cell 9, so this cell at J5. Selected that, so I've got O5 times J5. I now type plus, and I'm going to select my Y value that goes with my X value, so this one here in L5. So what I have here is equals negative O5 times J5 plus L5. And again, I press enter. Now notice that when I do that, I get out negative 7. So my equation for this line is Y equals 2, 0x plus negative 7. When we neaten stuff up a little bit later, we're going to get rid of this 0x portion, but you'll see that a little bit later. Alright, I now want to do this for all of my equations or all of my lines. So in order to do this, I actually don't need to repeat this again and again. Instead, I can take this entire line and drag it down. So what I do is select my 0 box, or in fact I'm about to select the Y, so click in the Y and drag across so that you're including the negative 7. Drag across and including the negative 7. Yours won't have negative 7, but including whatever it is that you have in this box here. Now if we move our cursor down to the very bottom corner, it turns into like a plus sign, so we've got a plus sign there. And you click that and you drag right down to the bottom. Now notice that there's some errors all the way through this. Now if you've got an error, that doesn't mean you've done something wrong. it means that your equation is something different. So for instance, where I have undefined, this equation is not a y equals equation, it's actually an x equals equation. So where I have undefined, I'm going to delete that line or that equation that I have there. So I'm just going to delete that. I'll do the same thing for each of these. Now I'm going to replace this with an x equals. So my equation is going to be x equals, I'm doing that for each of these because they'll all be x equals. And typing in the equal sign. Now you can type the equal sign into each of these, or you can actually take that and drag it down. So for instance, again, exactly like that. So taking it and I've dragged it all the way down. Now it's x equals to the value that doesn't change. So the value that didn't change here was my 9. Or the other way to look at it is it's x equals to the x value, which in this case is 9. So I'm going to type in 9. Now you can do the same thing for each of these. The x value that doesn't change is 14. So I type in 14. Now yours will be different. It's based on your x values. But again, it's the value that doesn't change. I do these for each of my x graphs. Now the other ones to look at is my graphs. Notice that I've got here decimals. You don't want decimals, you do want fractions. So we're going to change these into fractions. And we do this by using this button up here. At this point in time, I believe it's set at something like general or number. But if you select the drop-down box, you can change this to fractions. So selecting the drop-down box, down the bottom there is a fraction. And notice that I have fractions here. Where it says 5 and then space 1/6, that's 5 and 1/6. Okay. What I'm also going to do is resize all these so that it looks a little bit neater. So we don't normally have massive spaces in our equations, so I'm resizing. I can do this just by selecting exactly between two columns and then dragging it across. So click and drag. Now, what just happened was it was a little bit too big. So what we've done is pulled it back out a little bit. So if you get out asterisks in your columns, so somewhere down here, if you get out some kind of asterisk or hashtag, it just means that there's not enough room to show the answers. So again, you just click here and drag out a little bit more. Alright, the last thing that we're going to look at doing is to neaten up a couple more equations. My equations where my gradient is equal to 0. So when my gradient is equal to 0, currently what I have written is 0x plus -7. And what I'm going to do is get rid of the 0x portion because 0 times x is just 0. So if I get rid of that portion, and by get rid of I mean delete, so I'm going to delete that and the plus as well, so deleting everything that I've got there for any time that I have a gradient of 0. Now I'm going to take the solution I have at the end here, this -7, and rewrite it in the first cell. This is purely for neatness sake. So when I do this, I write in -7, and then I'm just going to delete what I've got in that last cell. So again, 15, and deleting what I've got in that last cell. This is done, so I'm now complete. Save your project, and you've got your equations done.